Please help me welcome to the DEBx stage, Jesse James Ferrell.
Have you ever felt like you inherited more than just your eye color, the color of your skin, or even your last name? Like maybe you inherited the unspoken pain of your family's past. As a 16-year-old boy, I spent my days escaping into a wonderland of becoming a singer, an actor, maybe even a doctor. And one day, I knew that I would and wanted to become a father. But I grew up in a cult-like community environment which came with a lot of trauma, sexually, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And those traumas over time silenced my dreams. And that silence nearly stole my life. As I struggled with suicidal ideation, depression, and deep shame for many, many years, always wanting to be seen, but absolutely terrified of being seen as broken. Let's back up a little bit. I met and married my high school sweetheart, Tammy. We quickly became parents after graduation, having our first child, Andrew. Andrew and I were best buds. I coached his little league, his soccer games. I was his Cub Scout den leader. I was with him every little boyhood adventure, experiencing all those little things that I didn't necessarily get to experience as a child. 7 years later, and after 3 miscarriages, we had our second child, Michaela. Some of my sweetest memories were coming home every day and just wrapping Michaela up in a big hug. We'd roll on the floor, laugh, play, snuggle. From planting flowers side by side to piggyback rides, those little moments became the heartbeat of our bond. And being their dad wasn't just a role for me. It was my greatest joy and my deepest sense of belonging. And as I've grown and evolved over the years, I've come to realize and understand that my children, whether they're near or far, close or estranged, have always been my guiding light, pulling me into the best version of myself. But after almost 11 years of marriage and struggling with my own sexuality, I came out as gay, and my wife and I decided to end our marriage. Let's fast forward about a decade. It was one of my summer weeks with Michaela. I decided I was picking her up, and I decided it would be nice to get her some new clothes for the summer and for the upcoming school year. When I mentioned going shopping to her, she said, "I don't need anything. I'm fine." "I'm fine" is a phrase I'd heard way too many times, and it had actually become quite the point of tension between us. But when I looked over at her, I saw that she was crying, full body crying. So I reached out for her hand, and I said, "Michaela, what's wrong?" Through her tears, she said, "Remember when I was a little girl, and we were standing in the grocery store, and I asked you for a candy bar? And you yelled at me in the store and told me to never, ever ask you again because your answer would always be no." I froze. I flashed back instantly to that moment 10 years ago, remembering me standing over my little 5-year-old, yelling at her, saying those very words. By now, we were both crying. I held her hand, realizing the pain she had carried for over a decade, and also the courage it took for her to speak up. It hit me that that one small moment in the grocery store had caused over a decade of suffering. I had repeated the cycle. I was flooded with tears of shame and regret. That single moment in the grocery store when my daughter chose to speak up stopped me in my tracks, and I realized it was time for me to start speaking up. And so I did. Through sacred men's circles, talk therapy, self-growth work, and many guided psychedelic experiences, I confronted the fear and the shame that had shaped my story and began to rewrite my life with courage, with intention, and with love. But I could only begin to do this because I was willing to speak up. I was hesitant at first, but the more I did it, the easier it became. By speaking up, by revealing my own trauma, my own generational trauma, those emotions began to lose their power over me. Those emotions have been destroying my relationship with my children and with anyone that I came in contact with. So I'll ask you again, have you ever felt like you inherited more than just your eye color, the color of your skin, or even your last name? Like you inherited the unspoken pain of your family's past? If so, you're not alone. Violence against children is staggering. In my research, I found a study stating that 1 in 5 women, 1 in 7 men experience sexual violence before the age of 18. When you include emotional, physical, and psychological abuse, the number climbs to nearly 1 in 2 children worldwide. Take a moment now, look down your row, count to 5 women. Go ahead, count to 5 women, count to 7 men. It doesn't take long to realize how quietly we've all been affected. Yeah, but Jesse, if I speak up, I might lose my family. I might lose my job, my identity. I don't have anyone to talk to. I can't afford therapy. I get it. I've been there. I've experienced all those same fears and many, many more. But silence only guarantees that the trauma will continue. People who carry the shame of trauma and never seek healing are far more likely to repeat the cycle like an unwanted inheritance. When you speak up, when you allow yourself to be seen in your rawest and most darkest time, you begin the courageous step in your healing journey. It was that courageous moment with my daughter Michaela speaking up that broke a trauma she had carried for over a decade. When I got divorced and came out as a gay man, I began speaking up. And I began a lifelong journey of disrupting my thoughts, my limiting beliefs, and the generational trauma and pain that had carried me for all those years. And I was able to finally draw a line in the sand and say, no more. And after my daughter courageously spoke up about being fine, what we did is we created a fun game of yes to invitations from Dad. Saying yes turned into a memorable year. Full-blown makeover from head to toe, new shoes, new outfits, shopping, several shopping experiences, all kinds of accessories. Didn't know girls needed so many accessories. And at the end of the year, a huge, over-the-top, Sweet 16 princess birthday party. All of this was created because Michaela chose to speak up. When I reflect back on my healing and self-discovery journey, a framework began to emerge for me that I want to share with you as a framework that allowed me to move forward in my own healing journey. This framework is called H.E.A.L. It starts with H. I learned to honor myself. I learned to create healthy self-boundaries and give others opportunities to connect with me. And E is for express. I began to express my truth even when it felt completely impossible and very uncomfortable. And A is for adjust. I learned to adjust and always did my best to only pass forward what would heal and let go of what was harmful. And then finally was love. Through that process, I learned to fall in love with myself completely, all of me. But more than that, I also, because of that, learned to love others with compassion and grace. This framework has supported me in my own healing journey with Michaela, my daughter, with my son Andrew, with my family, and with many others. As a matter of fact, in 2023, when Mike and I got married at the beach in Mexico, Michaela was our photographer. Her toast went something like this: I finally see my dad for who he is, the real dad. Through the stories that his friends have shared, and I'm happy that I got to be here to share those experiences and hear those stories and to see him happy. This was a full circle moment for me, proof that healing can happen generation by generation. Generational trauma can end by speaking up. So ask yourself, where in my family story can I draw a line and say no more? The cycle begins to break when we choose to move out of shame, move out of silence, move out of secrecy, and step into courage and speak up. Thank you.